Thank you. Thank you very much to the panelists and for taking the time to prepare and convey what is happening in the schools. And folks, you did it. We got another half hour to go, but you did a very nice job listening, and I really appreciate that. Like I said, we can do this. Being respectful really matters. And giving each other a chance to hear and ask your questions. So I'm going to ask the folks who were picking up the cards. I'm not sure I know who you are, but if folks will, so raise them high. Pass them to the ends if you want to have your question cards collected. And we want to make sure those come up here. We're going to get through as many of those as we can. And then in the future events, again, this is sort of a little more, questions in, hearing out, but there will be an opportunity in the future for you to sit, shoulder to shoulder, knee to knee, and actually have even more of a conversation expressing what your hopes are for your kids and your community. So pass the questions forward. We'll bring those up, and we'll get going as soon as I have some in my hands. In fact, if somebody just wants to run me the ones I have, I'll get going. Oh, we have a runner. Check her out. Thank you. Nice. Appreciate it. Oh my goodness, tons of cards. Okay. All right. Racial Unity Team is tax exempt 501(c)(3) organization. When will you post your financials on your website?
It is an open nonprofit organization, and we invite individuals. We haven't posted it on the website, but we do have financial statements at our meetings. We invite people to attend our meetings. There are 4 meetings that are open to the public. And I'll have to check with my treasurer how we do that.
Great.
There's no reason why we can't do that.
Thank you. Can efforts for equity harm members of the student community, i.e. hold them back in some way? Okay, I'm going to maybe throw that one to teachers. Or repeat it. Can efforts for equity harm members of the student community in some way, like holding them back?
No, because equity by definition means we're meeting the individual's needs, no matter what those are, no matter who, what, how. It is our jobs as educators to make sure we are meeting those individual needs, and that's what equity is about.
Had you considered the snappy term Jedi, which is from National NAACP and Star Wars? In Star Wars, it is their commitment to peace and inclusion, justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Jedi, have you considered that snappy term? Anybody? Maybe we'll let that one sit. I don't know. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I've considered it a snappy term more than a reorganizing of the same letters we're still using that are diversity, inclusion, and equity. It's all the same to me. Now, if there's some deeper meaning that I am not aware of, I would love the citation. Let me know.
Oh, yep. All right. Who decided that DEIJ was to become a component of SAU 16?
DEIJ work has been a component of SAU 16 far before anyone up here brought it in. Again, it was our parent community in the Exeter School District who brought it forward to the leadership at both Main Street School, Lincoln Street School, and wanted to have their students participate in a more diverse experience or increase and enrich the community with a more diverse experience. And so we carried that forward, riding on the shoulders of those parents. So this is a very grassroots organized effort from our parent community that we saw as being very beneficial for our students, and so we've carried it forward to all of our schools.
We would like the book lists for the whole district. I'm trying to get to the question there. How are you going to make sure no one is discriminated against, and can there be a shared book list for the whole district if this is already started?
I just want to make sure I understand the question, Michelle. Do we mean every book, textbook, novel, math, science, or are we looking at just novels? Or because I think it may be helpful to whoever asks. Okay.
Yeah, so book list.
That's great. So I'm pretty certain our classroom teachers share that with our parent community, with our students, and and you can certainly access that through our principals by making those requests. Teachers, do you have any other way that you better communicate that than I did?
Hold on just a second. We got to be able to hear. So
Can I just add? At Exeter High School, we now use Canvas as our learning management platform, and every assignment that we give, every reading that is put up there, parents can log into Canvas as an observer, and you can see everything that is assigned to your kids.
So hang on. I'm going to keep going through the questions, and so hopefully yours is in here. I'll just go for it. Can taxpayers log into a student's system that they aren't?
The learning management
they're not the parent.
program is for parents of students, and
Thank you.
that is.
How can Andre separate himself from his work with Black Lives Matter and his role as DEIJ director?
Let me see how I can answer that. Well, first I want to just say that I am Black, and that's what I identify as. So therefore I can never disconnect myself from Black Lives Matter, because my life does matter. And I do want to say that my work with Black Lives Matter and my work with DEIJ and SAU 16 is separate. You know, many of us are part of many different organizations and communities that we're part of, and we go into different workspaces. I truly believe in diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. And again, it's DEIJ is to make sure we're accepting everyone's differences in the space. So that's how I will separate myself. They are two different organizations.
Right.
Thank you.
Have you asked an attorney if DEIJ is legal in relation to New Hampshire law? Have you talked to an attorney? Maybe that goes to the big
I haven't asked that specific question. We fall and comply within the state statutes and any federal law that requires us to employ in schools. So, I mean, I've never asked an attorney if diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice is legal. So I'll have to mull that one over.
Okay. What opportunities will exist for surrounding districts and schools, Northampton, Portsmouth, et cetera, to learn from all this great work? How can we support other districts? You just answered about PEA. They carved PEA out because we got your connection, but anything else?
A few school districts, I like to say inland, but west of us, have already reached out to speak with us about the work that's being done, Bedford being one of them, Hudson being another. I know that in Manchester they've just hired a chief equity officer. She has reached out to meet with us. So that collaboration is starting to take root.
Name the racial issues that have happened in the district that warranted such a drastic change. I'm going to maybe toss it down there. Or, I don't know.
I guess I don't see this as a radical change. I think we're just being more transparent about the kind of teaching we want to do. We want to make sure that all of our students get what they need out of school. And I think it's fortunate that we're approaching this before we've had, we don't want to wait until some kid gets hurt to make a change. So we're being proactive.
Are you, DEIJ director, working on behalf of religious students if their views differ from another?
My role here in the district and in the schools is to work for all students. So I am a really great listener. And again, part of DEIJ is, accepting all differences and talking through those differences, understanding each other's differences, and putting each other in a space where we can understand where we come from, all our beliefs, our culture, and not hurt anyone while we're doing that. So not hurt each other. I said all children. Yes, all children, conservative children are part of that. Thank you.
Could you please explain the purpose of East Kingston's teachers' professional development? What was the objective, 20 to 21?
Their professional development in total?
What was East Kingston's teachers' professional development?
I think the person asking the question is referring to DEIJ training that they engaged in with Two Revolutions. And the training that was provided was to build a foundation for the teachers understanding their own selves, their own identities. Since that time, we've had numerous conversations with the staff and with Two Revolutions. Naturally, they're changing course with some of the work that they did as we've shifted that focus, and we obviously want all of our work to fall and comply within HB2. And so there's been a complete overhaul of that programming from Two Revs. I thought it was, that was the purpose.
That wasn't the question, but maybe it's in here. Is this indoctrination?
No.
How will you, hang on. We're gonna hang in here and make it to the end without that, okay? We're gonna hang in here. I'm getting to all these questions. So how will results be measured? How will you track progress? What benchmarks are you using to track progress? Me? Okay. Thank you. I will enunciate. How will results be measured? How will you track progress? And what benchmarks are we using to track progress? Being developed?
Yeah, it's not really a project that you track progress. I think the work we're doing right now is helping people understand what it is. So I think the more that we're able to engage in conversations that are respectful, I think that would be a wonderful benchmark that we could set.
All right. What does DEIJ have to do with math, science, literacy, or history? Does this enhance my child's academic performance? If so, how? Maybe teachers?
I'm going to go back to the definition of equity. It's meeting all students' needs, no matter what they are. And that includes math.
Let's give them a chance. We're listening. It's a listening night.
You don't want your children's needs to be met. I doubt that.
Okay, so hang on. How will diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice work impact students' academics? There's some answers to them.
Well, I think.
Hang on, folks, please.
we answered it in the presentation, but I'll go ahead and try to answer a little bit more. DEIJ will impact students' academics because it will create the space where all students feel like they belong, where they don't have to sit in a classroom and think, man, I'm getting picked on, I don't belong here, people are different than me, I learn different than others, I look different than others, where they don't have to think about that anymore. They can just come into the classroom and now just think about the academics. So that's how DEIJ will affect the academics of students. It will just help them focus 100% on their academics.
If these, go ahead.
So just to extend on what's already been said, I think it's an interesting notion that some might think that DEIJ is somehow inherently separate from a lot of the fundamental things that are being asked of kids to learn in school. So to the question of how does DEIJ tie into math or science, right? I think those are pretty pertinent for a lot of people. So when I'm thinking about my experience growing up, if I was able to connect on a cultural level to some of the word problems that were being asked in my math class, my investment in that class might look fundamentally different than if I feel far removed from that content. So what a DEIJ lens allows us to do is to think, how can we create a system, a structure in the classroom that makes the things that we're teaching students accessible to them and for them to also feel affirmed and seen in the things that they're reading and learning about, right? STEM, another great example. If we think about the representation in STEM, a lot of kids maybe don't see themselves in that profession because of folks who don't directly look like them. If there are narratives, problems shared, labs that are structured in particular ways, they might look at that as a possibility, and those are the same kids that we're looking to be the innovators of tomorrow and in the future, right? So that's how I would connect DEIJ to a lot of the things that we're asking students to learn in the classrooms.
All right. Okay, this is a question from a student. They noted that the question was from a student, so I'm going to ask this one. If these, hang on please. So we want everyone to be able to stay and listen. We want everyone to be able to stay. And to be able to stay, you have to stop yelling, please. We want everyone to be able to stay. This is a question from a student. If these questions are no longer allowed to be talked about, but a student asks about one, what would that question be answered? Sorry, I bumbled that. If these topics are no longer allowed to be talked about, but a student asks about one, would that question be answered from a student? Teacher team?
Are you talking about? I'm assuming that question's about the divisive concepts law. And I think that when we're talking about our curriculum, we are going to talk about things that are hard. And the law allows for that. And so we would definitely answer a student's question within the law.
Okay. Of course, validate.
I would just add that we're always here to listen to students and to process with students and to support students through difficult conversations, through difficult things that are happening in their lives and in the world. And as teachers, that's what we're here for. You know, we're here for the students.
Of course, validating and supporting students is extremely important, but isn't it also the educator's job to teach about systemic racism? Teaching diversity is not enough. Is it, I guess the question is, isn't it also? It's sort of a leading question, but.
Is teaching systemic racism enough in of itself? I mean, probably not, but yeah, I mean, none of it is enough in of itself. I mean, I'm not sure I really get the question, but I'm happy to understand it more.
Okay. How can elementary schools partner with this work? How can parents of young children and elementary school age children help support equity? Anyone from the elementary level?
If you're interested in doing this work alongside us, we welcome all families, parents, and community members to learn about it, to do the work with us, to get in the mess of it. So my suggestion would be that you reach out to the school principal or anyone who is on that DEIJ committee at that building level.
Will students be encouraged to categorize others and themselves? So for example, this book is anti-racist, has a whole chapter on putting folks in a box or boxes. I think you missed that part. But we'll get back to you. How many developmental and educational psychologists did the team consult with before implementing this program? They said no. Sorry.
The previous question about putting kids in, like having people have to put themselves in boxes, we may talk about identities, but we're not going to force you into one box. As we talked about, we all have many multiple identities and communities and cultures, and that's what we're going to encourage students to look at that, but not to box themselves in any way.
And I would just say that identity can be fluid, and that, you know, we have students who approach us and want to talk to us about their lives, and we're going to be open to that, and we're going to be supportive of those students, especially students who in the past may have been marginalized or not have had someone to talk to at school. We are here for students.
Yeah. So David, there's like, I'm just trying to get to them all. There's a set of questions that have your name on them. I would like to know why Dr. Ryan assumes our children are in a bubble. Is David Ryan going to give up his... Sorry, I'm leaning over. I'd like to know why Dr. Ryan assumes that our children are in a bubble. Is David Ryan going to give up his job to a person of color? Has David Ryan paid any reparations to the African American community? So I think maybe your intentions.
So I think these questions are very indicative of why we're trying to do this work.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, let's keep going. Thank you. Will you work with the 1776 project when you say you will work with organizations? I think the question is just, will you work with the 1776 project?
I don't know what the 1776 project is.
Okay, hang on. Does anyone else know on the stage?
It's a U.S. history curriculum that was put forth in the last 4 years. We look at all kinds of perspectives on U.S. history at the high school, so I'm sure it comes up. Either students are welcome to raise issues. I would say at the high school, our teachers don't follow any one particular curriculum. They're building from state standards, they're following the students' lead, and they're going where the students want to go.
Okay. How can we access the presentation? I think, okay, you're going to post it on the website?
Yeah, we'll post it.
All right. SAU 16.
SAU16.org.
Why do Exeter meetings keep getting earlier? Used to be 7, then 6, now 5:30. Something to keep in mind. Okay. What is meant by portrait of a student and portrait of an educator?
Both of those are the vision statements that we have, both what we want our students to achieve by the time they graduate and go off into the world. And as far as portrait of an educator, that is a process on how we develop all of our teachers and our staff members, the way that they go about their professional learning, the specific knowledge we want them to have, as well as the dispositions as professionals in the classroom. So you can consider them to be programs for personal and professional growth.
How does equity compare to equality?
All right. So equality means everyone gets the same thing, and equity means we're providing access to everyone so that they can reach the same level as everyone else. So it's so that we're giving. So for example, if we wanted to give, there was bike riders, and we had someone who couldn't ride a bike with their legs, we would give them a bike to ride that they can ride with their hands. So that is equity. Equality would be giving them all the same bike. Doesn't matter if you can ride with your legs or you can ride with your hands, you're just getting the same bike. That is what equality is. Equity is giving them the right bike that works for them so that they can also make it to the finish line.
If things are about equal outcomes, as you, I can't read it, why do you have sports programs? Each team is equal, everybody wins, why bother? Do you think Olympians believe in equal outcomes? Anybody want to answer if Olympians believe in equal outcomes? It's still the equity, equality piece. Anyone else want to chime in on that? Places where that plays out?
I don't know. I just see a bit of an opportunity for us at some point to kind of get at that question. And another one that came up, which I appreciate, it was the one about can anybody be hurt or held back by equity? And I've been thinking about that a little bit because I do think there's this current out there for probably a few different reasons, and I don't pretend to understand them all fully, but that if one person or group or something advances, then that's going to take away from others, as if it's like we're back in the times of like mercantilism or something, and it's like zero-sum game here. And I don't really think that's it. I think we know we're fortunate to be in a pretty resource-rich district, and I think there's a lot of resource and wealth and wisdom to go around. So when talking about fairness versus sameness, I don't think by making sure somebody has a fair shot, it's really an attack or an affront on somebody else. But I'm just putting it out there. I'm really trying to understand that perspective, if that is it a little bit more, why there might be a fear that advancing somebody who needs some help, or rather assisting somebody that needs help with those barriers, is going to potentially take away from somebody else. I think that's a conversation we probably want to engage in at some point. It might be helpful.
Okay. So we are at time. I really tried to go straight through the ones that I got handed, so there's still some here, and there were several that said this should have been more of a back and forth. It wasn't planned that way this time, but future events can be more of a dialogue. Thank you very much for being here and engaging with your school district. Drive safe, be safe, heading home. Thank you. Keep in touch. Bye.
I have one question. I'd like to know, you said you've been following this DEIJ for years.
Who are you talking with?
What happened with my son in the blue flag? You guys have been following him so long.